What's up, Buck? I'm Doug with D&E in the garage, and today, talking about leaf blowers. What you're looking at here, friends, is my collection of leaf blowers, my own personal machines, everything from the big heavy walk behind backpack blower down to this steel BE55, which is the original electric leaf blower. This is a plug-in joint though, not what we're here to talk about today, because I thought this collection was comprehensive. Missing nothing. I got the big heavy handheld Poulon, the nice light nimble Echo. This bad boy was previously my absolute favorite. Got the backpack blower, Wild Badger, which we did a review video on maybe 2 years ago. I'll leave a link to that. In my opinion, the best inexpensive blower you can get on the market right now. And as some of you know, in addition to being a small engine mechanic and a number of other things, I do run an equipment rental business. Enter the Ego blower. This is not a video I ever expected to make. I can already hear the cries. Doug, don't you literally make your living on internal combustion? What in God's name are you doing? A, with a battery-powered piece of power equipment, and B, advocating that others, you know, make the move the same. Kind of seems self-defeating, like the head eating the tail of the snake, something like that. Here's the thing, we're about to go into this blower and what it can do and what it can't do and my experience with it, but one thing I'm not gonna try to convince you of is that it's better than a single one of those internal combustion blowers that I showed you at the beginning of the video. But it is different. It's a different tool. It's another tool. We get to buy another tool. That sounds awesome. Tool guys everywhere, rejoice. I'm about to give you the whole argument you need to justify going out to buy another tool. My journey with battery-powered power equipment started when I realized that that is what my renters wanted from me. So I started doing a little bit of research, and what you see across the various battery platforms is a lot of people compromising, right? They're taking the existing 20 volt or 40 volt batteries, making them work on like a little job site blower or a shop blower or something. There are very few companies that have a really robust leaf blower that could compete with an internal combustion. Because this Ego, it could compete with like my little Echo. My opinion is not going to win, but it could compete. An outlier there is DeWalt. They did make a proper 60 volt blower. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but what I really came to terms with and I started to notice was Ego, this is all they do. They make power equipment, battery-powered power equipment, so they're putting their all into the battery technology and the motor technology and everything, because that's all they do, whereas DeWalt, the fact that they make a 60 volt blower is like 100th probably on the list of tools as far as demand from their customers. So it's an afterthought. Yeah, they have it to be competitive. They probably had somebody else make it. I'll bet if I looked hard enough, I could find an identical unit somewhere out there in the world. Let's talk more about Ego though. Now, one of the first things I do when I look at any tool is what kind of replacement parts are available, because I'm not a tosser out, get another one. I'm like, let's tear it apart and figure out what's going on in there. Additionally, if you're gonna be renting equipment, renters are hard on equipment. That was one of the very first lessons my father ever taught me. He said, no one will ever treat your stuff as good as you treat your stuff. And it's just true. It's just true. So I needed to find equipment that's serviceable. Ego is that. You can get every single piece of that blower, from the buttons down to the wiring harness, down to the motor assembly, to the schnoozle tube. You get the decals if you really wanted to keep the thing looking nice. That's a huge, huge, huge plus. Right to repair, that's the thing we're facing right now. And if a company is making this stuff available, it tells me they mean business in the market. They want to be around. They want your business. They understand that if they want to be a name in power equipment, the stuff's gotta be serviceable. That's not the case with pretty much all the other electric battery-powered blowers on the market. Another thing with their batteries, they have really well-reviewed batteries. It's also on the higher side of voltage. A lot of the blowers that you're seeing are working on either a 20 or a 40 volt system. I will say that DeWalt is working on a 60 volt system, while, as most of you know, Ego uses a proprietary design. It's their own standalone battery coming in at 56 volts. So it's on the much higher side for the industry as a whole, but it is not the top of the mark. That would be the DeWalt. But again, I just don't trust the DeWalt long term, because at any point, if it's not viable or they need to trim something down, they can just hack that piece of the business off. DeWalt is not a power equipment company. They're just not. So any power equipment they make is always going to be secondary to the drills and the table saws and the impact guns. So friends, I did my research and I decided it was Ego. I got my hands on one. What do they like to run though? Darn well. The stats on this blower are impressive. This is the mid-range 650 CFM, does that at 180 miles an hour. What's interesting is that's higher CFM but lower miles an hour than like a backpack blower or a lot of the similar handheld competitors. This thing is a little bit lighter than its gasoline counterparts. It's actually a great unit for the kids, no joke. I give this thing to the executive producer all the time. She helped me clear that entire yard, make that big pile. One of her chores is actually blowing off our deck every night with this Ego blower. We've had a crazy issue with acorns in New Jersey this year because of the drought. I've been pushing huge piles of this thing. I'm talking 20, 30, 40 times more than I usually get, but this Ego has done a great job maneuvering these hordes of acorns around the property. The battery life on this is impressive, coming in at about 30 to 45 minutes continuous use, depending how often you use the turbo button, which you can hear right here. That's how you get a little more oomph out of the thing, but it does drain the battery pretty quick. Alrighty friends, there was one last piece that I needed to be able to nail down before I could confirm that Ego Power Equipment was right for me. Because if I'm going to make the step to a battery-powered unit, ooh, buddy, it better be a good one. So I get burned by battery once, probably not going back. I already told you, Ego batteries are some of the best on the market, some of the most powerful in this application, but they're pricey. The 5 amp hour comes in at about $200. If you want that 12 amp hour, which I desperately do, you're gonna pay about $275. I wanted to know, is there an aftermarket battery available for the Ego? Because a lot of these no-name brands, there's not. Obviously there is for stuff like DeWalt and the Milwaukee M18 and everything else like that. Enter VANON batteries. Found these guys. They're one of the only people making a well-reviewed aftermarket battery for the Ego. Got my hands on the 5 amp hour here, and in my mind there's really only one thing to do. I have the Ego battery all charged up here, ready to go. VANON is the same thing. They both just came off the charger. Alright friends, here we go. Head-to-head test. Didn't have a 5 amp hour at the house, but I am using a fully charged 2.5 amp hour, and what's interesting is the 2.5 came in at 17 minutes continuous use before it was completely depleted, whereas the 5 amp hours, I know from my experience, are about 30 to 35 minutes. So that is right where you would expect it to be going against the VANON. Now it is a VANON 5 amp hour, and it came in at about 27 minutes, little less than the Ego, but for the price you're still coming out on top because you can get a 5 amp hour VANON for $130. And that's really what I set out to find here. I said, hey, if I have to buy a bunch of Ego batteries, I'm gonna go broke. Is there a viable alternative? And I think if you take into account the price and the amount of runtime compared to a full Ego battery, VANON is a really great choice to add to your Ego battery stock. So friends, what do you think? Am I a lunatic? Have I lost the plot? Is there something there? Let me comment down in the squawk boxes. Would you try out battery-powered power equipment? Have you tried out battery-powered power equipment? If it's one of those things, if you're on Milwaukee or DeWalt, why not pick up, you know, the cheap little job site one? It doesn't do what the Ego does or what your backpack blower does or even your hand power ICE, but why not have more tools? That's how I look at electric tools. It's not replacing anything, ever, for me. But I'll add to it. It's cool, man. I like having the option to just pick up the Ego and go. Other than that, I do want to bring y'all attention to the sweatshirt. That's right, we finally have these on sale. Y'all have been asking me for 3 years to make the 4-liter tribute hoodie. Here it is, 4-liter HO, the head gasket, the fire in order. It's a beautiful thing. Over at monkeywiththetoolbox.com, we're pre-ordering for a mid-November run right now. There'll also be a late November run and a mid-December run, both of which are designed to arrive to you in the continental United States by Christmas, because nothing says spread Christmas cheer like a 4-liter Jeep hoodie. And speaking of the 4-liter, here's my 4-liter. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I want to reintroduce it to the channel because you guys weren't around when I built this bad boy back in 2010, and I will tell you, if you think I like to modify my vehicles now, there's not a nut or a bolt on this thing that has not been touched in one way or another. Point is, getting these hoodies together really got me feeling in the 4.0 spirit, so I dragged this thing up onto the driveway, convinced the wife lady that she wants nothing more than to help me redo the interior while I tackle this engine bay. I'm absolutely tickled to have this thing out of the tree row up on the driveway. We're going to be doing some work on this bad boy, so if you want to see some proper 4-liter content, which has not been on this channel in several years, I don't think I've had a 4-liter since Little Buck the XJ. Oof. That was a long time ago. We're due for some 4-liter content. Subscribe if you want to see it. Leave me a comment down in the squawk boxes. If you like this video, please like the video. That's common sense. Go check out monkeywiththetoolbox.com. Get your 4.0 Jeep Tribute hoodie pre-ordered now so you can show off your Jeep pride at the Christmas party. Additionally, we're going to be releasing new decals and shirts every Friday on monkeywiththetoolbox.com. So hey, check back every now and again. You never know what you might find. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this one. I absolutely cannot wait to see y'all on the next one.